to Fredonia Village Hall for tonight's discussion, the public hearing on a local law to override the tax cap. Before we do that, I want to let the general public know and remind you the Village of Fredonia will be hosting an informational meeting for its New York Main Street program at Village Hall's Trustee Room, this very one, on the second floor of April 26th that's this Friday at 6 o'clock. The New York Main Street program is designed to enliven downtowns through funding to make improvements to storefronts and upper residential apartments. Eligible applicants can apply to receive up to $50,000 for commercial-only improvements and up to $100,000 for qualifying mixed-use properties, which include residential units in the renovations. The information session will be led by representatives from Labella Associates, the consultant team selected to support the village in administering the New York Main Street program. The Labella team has guided several communities through several similar New York Main Street projects, Restore New York projects, and DRI New York Forward projects, and will share these experiences with Fredonia property owners. The information session will review the rules and expectations of the New York Main Street program, highlight lessons learned from past projects, and offer property owners an opportunity to ask questions about the projects they are considering. New York Main Street information has been added to the Village of Fredonia's website, along with the application and tips to help property owners know if they're ready to start their projects. Please visit Village of Fredonia, NewYork.com to access the application, learn more about the New York Main Street program, or email Christina Paradowski at cparadowski@labellapc.com. Applications for the projects must be submitted and received by noon on Wednesday, May 17th to be considered. Okay, with that, I would like everyone to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This being the time and place for the public hearing on the proposed local law number 2 of 2024, a local law to override the 2024-25 tax cap limit. Proof of publication shown. I will call this hearing to order. The village clerk shows proof of publication. And do we have the speakers? Can you grab that for me? We remind everybody that this is a discussion only of the override of the tax cap limit. Jim Linden, Fredonia.
Good evening. Let's start by asking you not to go over the tax cap at all. Do not override it. Stay within the tax cap. I'm sorry.
Is that on, Jim?
Yeah.
Hello? Yes, okay. Yeah. I'm going to ask the board to not override the tax cap limit. Stay within the tax cap. I understand by looking at the village's website late this afternoon that there is some additional changes that were made to the budget. I don't know if anybody else knows that. That's good because it was brought down, but I think they could certainly do more. There's opportunity in there. There was wage increases that went beyond a reasonable cost of living increase. It appeared to be new hires. There was also some mistakes in the budget that I found have to do with numbers of employees and some numbers that were within the personnel departments, and so there's some mistakes there. But I do think that we should stay under the tax cap. There's ample time for you to, at this point, to move forward and find some more cuts. You have till the May 1st, on or before May 1st, to pass this budget. There's enough ample time to go through and finish making those cuts. You're darn close. You have less than 3% to get down to that 3.1% tax cap. So I think that's a very reasonable way to go about it. But I would like to know when and where the recent changes were made, because I did not see them on a recorded video like we've been seeing them. I didn't know of any advance notice of where and when it was made. If you could, maybe somebody answer me where and when these recent changes were made, if they were not before the public.
It was a discussion that we needed to have in executive session regarding possible lawsuits.
So the reduction in the taxes, like I said, are good, the tax rate, but you did not do it before the public. You did them in executive session.
Correct.
Let me get that right.
That is correct.
I don't know how that is consistent with our state laws, but, so I'm gonna ask you to stay within the tax cap. Don't vote for this to go above it.
Next speaker, Jill Kuhn.
Jill Keen, that's okay.
I'm sorry, Jill.
That's all right.
I'm gonna write that down phonetically so I remember it next time.
I agree with everything Jim has said. I've walked through my neighborhood, door to door. I've talked to people on the street. Nobody wants you guys to go over the tax cap. Nobody that I have talked to in this village, and I've talked to many people. They're all watching on YouTube. Matter of fact, some recognized me. Well, anyways, the last meeting last week, your responses I felt were very defensive. A lot of the questions weren't answered. You were voted in here for the people. We appreciate it if you are working for us, but would you please consider keeping under the tax cap? A lot of people do not want to be here anymore. We've already lost some of our population, and we'll be losing more from the people I've talked to. That's not good. We are not evenly balanced regarding the tax cap. I mean, and the tax, not the tax cap. The taxes were not evenly balanced because the fire department has so much, DPW has nothing. We are so awkward. We're not balanced at all. Not saying it's your fault, but we need to stop any new hires. We're in a tough spot right now with our water and sewer. We need to basically go back, maybe rethink next year. You know, we don't all get everything we want in life or need or want. That's just part of life. We need to keep it under. These are hard times for everybody. I know, I don't know what else I want to say, but am I missing anything? Listen to the people. Listen to the people and keep under the tax cap. Don't drive them out. A lot of people can't afford it. I know a lot of them would agree to me. If I walked door to door again, I bet you I could get a lot of signatures saying no. Thank you.
Thank you. Forgive me if I pronounce your last name wrong. Jill Tidon?
Keen.
No,
Oh, it's Tidone, but that's
Tidone.
okay.
Julie Tidone. Thank you.
Okay, good evening, everyone. And I just want to say I really want to echo the sentiments of the last two speakers. My husband and I moved here about 8 years ago, and we found Fredonia to be a very wonderful and welcoming place to live. I would hate to see people just pack up and leave, sell their homes, go somewhere else that they think is more affordable, because without the people, you're going to lose a lot with your community. And I know with inflation and taxes going up and gas going up and groceries getting more expensive all the time, any extra expenses on many families that are struggling would be difficult, and it could drive people out of this area. So please consider staying within the tax cap.
Thank you. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we had 3 people sign up to speak. So that will close this portion of tonight's meetings. Local law to override the 2024-2025 tax cap limit. I thank you, and we will be back at 7:30 to hold the public hearing on the proposed 2024-2025 village budget. And we'll be back in just a little bit. We're going to take a break, and thank you. I do want to, I read this in the first meeting, for those of you that didn't tune in. Many are tuning in for this portion. I'm just going to remind you, the Village of Fredonia will be hosting an informal meeting for its New York Main Street program at Village Hall's Trustee Room, this room on the second floor of Village Hall, on April 26th. That's this Friday at 6 p.m. The New York Main Street program is designed to enliven downtowns through funding to make improvements to storefronts and upper residential apartments. Eligible applicants can apply to receive up to $50,000 for commercial-only improvements and up to $100,000 for qualifying mixed-use properties, which include residential units in the renovation. The information session will be led by representatives from Labella Associates, and the information session will review the rules and expectations of the New York Street program, highlight lessons learned from past projects, and offer property owners an opportunity to ask questions about the projects they are considering. New York Main Street information has been added to the Village of Fredonia's website, along with the application and tips to help property owners know if they're ready to start their projects. Please visit villageoffredonianewyork.com to access the application and learn more about the New York Main Street program. They must be submitted by noon on Wednesday, May 17th, to be considered. So once again, you're welcome here Friday at 6 o'clock. What else would you be doing on a Friday night at 6 o'clock? So we hope you can join us. Before we go any further, I do want to read this year's proposed budget that is being talked about tonight. Our general fund revenue is $7,295,524. The general fund expenses, $7,412,979. Our water fund revenue is $2,085,950. The expenses are $2,207,781. Sewer fund revenue is $2,094,000, and the sewer fund expenses are $2,036,098. Total revenues with the funds are $11,475,474, and total expenses within the funds are $11,656,858. The general fund budget includes a tax increase to $39.25 per thousand from $36.95 per thousand, resulting in an increase of 5.85%. The village will be amending the fund balance policy this year down to between 10 and 15% of appropriations. This budget includes $134,000 in capital costs from local funds. The general fund has a budgeted revenue that is up $271,295, $184,898, which will be generated from tax revenue. The expenses have increased to $257,031 from last year's budgeted amounts. The board has worked together to make adjustments to the budget after the previous hearing, from the public hearing. This resulted in a lower tax rate, elimination of the changes to the building inspector's office, and eliminating the need for an additional firefighter. No changes were made to the water and sewer funds after the public hearing was held. Once again, the increase will be 5.85%. With that, oh, I have the wrong sheet of paper here. This time being a place for the public hearing, do we have the sign-in sheet? On the proposed 2024-2025 village budget. Proof of publication is shown, and I will call this hearing to order. The village clerk shows proof of said publication. Thank you. Nick Dolniak? Okay, I'm sorry, Nick.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So basically, I'm just here to say, when you guys raise the tax rate, none of us expect the tax rate to ever go down again, right? It's always going to keep going up. The more you raise it now, the more we're going to have to pay later. We all have to vote. We all vote for you guys, and we can vote another way. Thank you.
Thank you. James Linden.
Okay, as you all know, I've been reviewing your proposals along the way. Yeah, there's issues with this tax cap, or not, I'm sorry, the tax increase, even at 5.85%. I do believe you could get underneath the tax cap of 3.1%. There's, as I mentioned earlier, there's excessive pay increases going out beyond a reasonable cost of living increases. According to the budget that I see that was on the website, there's it says 19 fire department, even though I understand that there's someone that is going to need to be replaced for a retirement, but that doesn't mean you add extras. It's not 2 or 3 more. It's just replacing the one that you have. So it should stay at 16 from last year. Same thing with the police department. You had 23. You're up to 24. I see you did increase the code department's. Removed the firemen from there and adjusted that. And you guys did all this during an executive session recently, apparently, from my understanding. And so anyhow, there's the code department. He was making $19,000 this year. He's going to be giving a part-time guy $26,000. That's more than a cost of living increase. So you have the fire department, the police department, the code department. There's all these pay increases. The village clerk and the village treasurer. Those increases in there are well. First of all, there's a mistake in the personnel at the very lower portion of the budget, where for the clerk, it said that there's $57,000 something plus a $3,500 longevity pay, but then it says 57,000 something again, so that doesn't add up. I don't know why. Like I said, there are some mistakes in this budget that mathematical mistakes. Those need to be cleaned up before you present a budget. And if you're not hiring the right of employees in the department, why does it say so? And are those numbers correct? I don't know the total all the way through, including all of your cost of the village costs, insurances, and their portion of pay. Is that correct in the budget? There's areas that need to be addressed, and they need to be corrected before you vote on this budget. You certainly can bring it down within the tax cap. There's ways to do it. You're getting darn close. So the public really appreciate it. You've come a long way, and I think that they would be happy with you if you did that, because you're very close. You can do this. There's the water. There's the issue with the water costs. You didn't need to go as high as you did. As you could see in your budget, you could have lowered it slightly. You didn't need to add to the base cost. You still can make those changes. You can the sewer fees. Those rates, you raise them needlessly because you have an excess amount above the highest point of your fund balance requirement. You're over 25% of your budget. You're lowering your general fund balance requirements at 10% in order to utilize some of those funds to try to lower your tax levy. But with the sewer, you have an abundance of it, and you didn't even touch it. That doesn't make sense at all. So it seems to me that you would utilize some of that overage, or bring it down significantly down into that lower amount, at least down somewhere between 15 and 20%, and then you wouldn't have to raise the rates whatsoever. You actually show a revenue above and you still have above 25% fund balance. These are things that you should be addressing. The people would appreciate it, like they said. I heard a comment. One of the trustees said that the department heads need raises because, how are they going to pay these tax increases? They live in our community. They live in our community too. And that was one of our trustees. And I'm going, wow, that's interesting. When the pay for a good portion of these department heads are significantly higher than the average pay in our community, that runs somewhere between $45,000 and $53,000 a year in a household. Well, I assure you, they're not going to, if they get a reasonable cost of living increase as opposed to these exorbitant ones, that they would certainly be able to pay their tax increases this year on their properties. There's also another misnomer about how many people we have in this community based on the properties and the taxation. Yeah, we have fewer people, but fewer people own all of the properties. We have more properties, and our properties are up in value. You are getting a little more tax increase or tax return for the amount of money or the tax percentage that you're taxing the people on these properties. We hope that our properties continue to increase in value. We maintain them. But the numbers of people, it doesn't matter if one person owns 14 houses or 14 people own 14 houses. You're going to get the tax on those no matter who owns those houses. All the houses and properties and businesses in our community are owned by someone. They're going to pay the tax. So, yeah, you may have fewer people, but those fewer people own all of the properties. So they keep throwing that out there, and that's not an effective way to deal with the budget. What you're dealing with your budget is your expenditures. How much are you charging people for the services that you're providing the public? All the conveniences and the services that we have. And do we need to spend that huge portion of our budget on the fire department or the other departments? Is it reasonable to believe that we should be doing this? No, right now it's not. And it's not true that everyone is doing it. Casadega actually lowered their budget, their tax amount. They lowered it, not a significant a lot, but they didn't go even into the tax cap. They went below. They lowered their taxes, And it happens in communities. There was a school district out towards Buffalo that had in order to stay under their tax cap, they laid off 20 employees. That's tough decision making. This is what you're doing is not tough decision making. You tried to throw the people under the bus with your the parks program for $22,000. I'm glad you put it back in. Thank you so much. I appreciate that, and so do the people. But that was going to scare people out of here.
But Jim, I got to say one thing.
Yeah.
This is not a time for me to speak. I don't appreciate the idea that we're throwing people under the bus.
What's that?
Everybody in this room is a taxpayer.
You're right.
These increases are on me as well.
Sure they are.
And no one is sitting here, other than when you were here as well, to sit here and say, we're frivolously, heck with them, throw them under the bus. They're trying to make tough decisions, and I think from 19.1% to 5.8% in less than 2 weeks is pretty admirable at this point.
Well, 19% was ridiculous, and I'm going to say, Mayor, and I know it's not easy to be in those positions. I was there for 8 years, and yes, I took a lot of heat at times. The newspaper beat me up quite a bit every once in a while, and yeah, you have to have big shoulders. And I'm sorry if you don't like it. You don't have to like it, right? And you could tell me that that you don't appreciate it. I said, but the taxpayers aren't liking the budget. When you had a 19% tax increase, I don't know if you referred to how the state expects you to do a budget, but as the financial officer of the village, the department heads are supposed to come and discuss with you, and you with them to come with a reasonable budget ahead of time, not to show the public how awful it could be, and then work your way down and say, well, we're halfway there, look at us. No, it's not how it should be. Is that if you were able to get to this far now, you could have done majority of that on your own. I realize it's your first budget. I'm going to give you that. But if you would have gone through the policy of how to do it prior to, you would have realized that your department heads need to discuss this with you alone as a financial officer of this village.
And as they did, and I've made many budgets, but thank you for your concern.
Well-
I've made many budgets over the years with departments much bigger than this one, so
Well,
I appreciate
I appreciate that too. But when you said that we have to increase every single year, well, you don't have to increase every single year if you have a budget that does not reflect those needs. But this year's clearly did not have to reflect 19%, and clearly from the increases that are presented in this budget still, there's reason to believe that it could be reduced even further. I think I'm going to leave it at that.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Jill Keane?
I really don't have much to add than Jim already said, but I totally agree with him, and I'm sure most of the population agrees with him. I can guarantee you that. You guys really do need to stay under the tax cap, and I'm sorry that you have to feel like you have to defend yourself, but we're all concerned. And I want to bring up 2 points. And the first point is the treasurer makes 70-some thousand a year and now is getting a huge raise of 90-some thousand a year. That is more than the cost of living. Don't appreciate that at all. I'm sure none of the citizens appreciate it because none of us get that. And like I said, the other thing that I'm concerned about is you guys are making decisions under executive session on the budget that he said. Is that legal? That's what I want to know. Keep it under the tax cap.
That's a list of people that we had to speak tonight. With that, I will close this section. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for being here. We appreciate your input. And we will be holding our next meeting Monday on this budget, on voting on the budget. And that is at 7 o'clock in these very rooms. Remind you once again that we do have a New York Main Street meeting here as well, Friday at 6 o'clock. You can go to our website if you need to contact us for any reason. We thank you very much. And Chip, we thank you as well. Have a good night, everybody.